All right, I think we can start. So now officially welcome to this workshop. Thanks a lot for joining us today. As you may know, the topic is Futures Design in BFSI, and today we will discuss signals of change. This will be a series of workshops around foresight, strategic foresight, utilizing the Institute for the Futures toolkit. And yeah, we will start today with signals of change. I would like to mention that I will be recording this event and that the video will be available later on YouTube. If you're interested, you can watch it, rewatch it. You can, inform yourself and look at details of this workshop later on. So before we start the session, I would like to say some words about me. My name is Johanny Pestalozzi. I am a Miro group lead located in Zurich, Switzerland. I have been with Miro as a community lead already for almost 2 years, and it has been a very rewarding, very exciting experience meeting people from around the world and also using tools, design tools, and taking insights and incorporating it into my work. I have 11 years of work experience across different industries, including research, information technology services and consulting, startup and governmental organizations. And I have worked in various projects, also with different brands and institutions across various industries. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can click on in here and it will lead you directly to my profile if you're interested, if you want to connect after this workshop. So the agenda today is as follows. First, I'm going to give you an overview of what is the BFSI and also what is the foresight, the strategic foresight approach of the Institute for the Future. We are not, it is not expected for experts, so do not worry if you see these acronyms and banking, financing. You will see later on that most of what we will need, you already know. As a user, we interact with several products and services of this industry, so that will be more than enough. Then we're going to have an icebreaker and an introduction section. We're going to have some input around concepts and sources of signals of change. And then we're going to have the activity in which we will have hands-on exercise, finding signals of change, and then discussing it in the group about its relevance and how we can use it later on for building scenarios in this industry. And we'll finalize with a retrospective and some words within the group if you would like to share. So let's jump right in directly into the Institute for the Future Foresight Toolkit and also what is the BFSI industry. So the Institute for the Future was founded, let me first hide the cursors. For the moment, I am not really needing it. So yeah, the Institute for the Future was founded in 1968. It is based in Palo Alto in the USA and is the world's oldest futures research and educational NGO. So it is really an honor to be to have the opportunity to use their toolkit and also incorporate it in our practice. Foresight is normally used in organizations to anticipate opportunities and risks, in this case, business opportunities. Then evaluate the strategic plans and create roadmaps and test assumptions. It is particularly interesting if organizations are looking for offering new services, new products, or anticipate potential risks around the incorporation or the implementation of certain products in the market. And also it's used for building internal readiness and shared perspectives within teams. The foresight cycle has four components. Normally, you start with a preparation session where you gather some evidence, some signals and drivers, as we are going to do today. You normally also can get information about around business priorities or what are analytics that have been gathered within an organization. You also frame some futures questions and prepare the mind to this. So there are some tools. Overall, they have more than 50 tools, I believe. And some of them include preparing people, preparing teams for thinking around futures scenarios. Then we move on into foresight, and then you build scenarios, you build plausible possibilities or plausible consequences of signals and drivers of change that may impact a product or a service or an industry or whatever product you have in mind. Then you have insight and you generate new ideas, you create meaningful implications. So foresight is a mixture between research and design. It's an art and it's a science. So in this part is where we incorporate the ideation phase, I will say. And then we draw the conclusions from this and then we can create action, which is the next step and the final one, where you frame and prioritize possible actions for today to leverage these insights. So here is a part of the banking, the financial services, and insurance part that I mentioned earlier. So here I added some general information for you just to keep in mind that this is an umbrella term for commercial banks, insurance companies, non-banking financial companies, mutual funds, pensions, cooperative, and others. I tried to collect some sketches, some images that can give us some ideas of what are products and services in this. For example, in banks, you have deposits, you have loans, you have cards, and other. And around deposits, you have saving accounts, you have salary accounts, accounts in other currencies. And with regard to services, you have, for example, when you open an account, when you do withdrawals and deposits, when you transfer, when you pay services, and so on. So you can see that we're already very familiar, as customers of banks, we already know more or less how many of these products and services work. So whenever you feel like you would like to refresh your mind, just feel free to go to this section, to this frame, and just have a look. And also you can look in more detail around the loans and cards and the different products and services in banks. When it comes to financial products and services, we have payments and transfers, we have savings and investments, borrowing and financing. So whenever we take a loan or you take a microcredit or you have bonds or mortgages or you trade credit, we're already using products and services from financing. Also, blockchain stocks and bonds is part of this. Mobile banking, digital money, and virtual currencies is part of this. And then finally, insurance. These are different types of insurance, as according to this author. And they include personal insurances, property insurance, liability insurance, and corporate insurance. There may be more, of course, but this is just as an example for you to keep in mind, So you have life insurances, you have medical insurances, accidents, travel insurances. You may also insure a vehicle, an animal, or any other object that you may want. Liability insurance, if you have, for example, a business or as a private individual, you can also have a liability insurance in case you may need to use it if you cause something by accident. And then corporate insurance, staff living insurance, project disaster risks, industrial espionage, among others. So as you can see, it's a very broad industry, it's an umbrella term, it includes a lot of products and services, and it generates, of course, a lot of revenues. Therefore, doing a workshop that looks into the future, into how these products and services may transform or may merge in the future, could be of relevance, both for those who create these kind of products and services, but also as well for us as designers to lead the conversation around these things. So now I would like to have a kind of icebreaker. I phrased the question here: what are products and services that you use around banking, finance, and insurance, and how do you use them? And I place here 2 sticky notes so that you have an example of how this may look like. So the idea is that you write your name, your title or your job, and your location, and then another sticky note where you write the products and services you use and how you may use that. We're going to have then a session later on to discuss within the group. So let's dedicate 3 minutes for this, and then we can discuss in the group.
Hi, Johanny. Can you share the link for the Miro again?
Yes, sure, I can do that.
Thanks.
Thanks for letting me know. Because I know some of us joined later, but yeah, there you have it. Let's go for it. The last 20 seconds, especially for Max. You have a lot of content to share. Okay, time's up. So let's introduce each other. So let's go clockwise. So Philip, if you would like to start. Okay, Philip doesn't.
Yeah, sorry. So,
worries.
my name is Philip. I work for a construction company in Berlin. I'm currently relocating to London. So we build products around, or our touch point to finance is when first-time buyers financing their houses. And, so we are in this. That's our only real touch point to the financial markets.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope the workshop is useful for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Perfect. Good. So Soledad, you're next.
Yes. I am Soledad Solís. I am CCXP, professional customer experience. I live in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. And yes, I use my account for savings, debit and credit cards, and also crypto trading, and making some investments. And here we say fondos de inversión, investment funds, and well, insurance also, house and my car and health insurance. Yes, I use.
Very nice.
For those.
So you're very familiar then with several products and services of this industry. So
yes,
I guess it
yes.
will not be difficult for you to find some
Okay.
signals around it.
Perfect.
Good, perfect. So then we have Max down here.
Hi. Max, I, amongst other things, develop Miro apps for the marketplace and clients. And these are a list of things, our finance tech stack, I suppose. Stripe for accepting credit card payments and submissions from users and clients, QuickBooks for accounting, Harvest time tracking for invoicing and managing our time tracking. Buy Me a Coffee is a place that people donate to us. On the insurance side, we have tech, cyber, E&O, business operating, general liability insurance through an online firm as well. And then our direct banking app, credit union, local to Denver,
cool.
direct deposits, ACH for.
Wow, this was so thorough. Amazing. Great.
It was a good reminder.
It seems like you prepared it in advance. Did you?
No, I'm just constantly mindful of these items.
Cool. Not very nice. Amazing. So as Soledad, I also assume that it will not be difficult for you to follow this topic. So cool. So we can move on. It's really great to see this diversity of participants and also to see that, we all interact in one way or another with some of these products and services in banking, financial services, and insurance. And therefore, this workshop could be of relevance personally also for you. There was a video here about the Institute for the Future. I would really like to play it. It's relatively short, and and also we can already test if the audio is working. Let's have a look.
We're clearly living in a period of huge transformation, technological, social, economic. And while we can't know exactly what the future holds, that is, we can't predict the future, neither can we assume that today's choices and assumptions will still be relevant tomorrow. For over 40 years now, the Institute for the Future has helped governments, businesses, and nonprofit organizations to make sense of the emerging trends and disruptive forces that are transforming our world. Through various types of techniques, ethnographic research, expert workshops, collaborative online forecasts, and others, We help people anticipate the discontinuities and dilemmas that face us globally and at home, so that we can ultimately make better decisions. We create maps that communicate the patterns and connections in complex systems. We also create digital artifacts that immerse us in alternative future scenarios and make them more tangible. And we use massively multiplayer online games that leverage new skills to tackle global problems. With these and many other tools, our mission is to develop the foresight required to reveal the insights that allow for strategic action, both now and in the coming decades of disruption and uncertainty.
The Institute for the Future. Practical foresight for a world undergoing rapid change.
Perfect. So as you saw, the Institute for the Future uses research to create these scenarios around the future. It's not a magic ball that they have and then they foresee what will happen. We can definitely not see the future, but we look at trends, at drivers, impacts that are causing changes and transformation today. And that leads us directly to what is the next part, which is signals of change. So signals of change are indicators today that we can gather from news, we can gather from social media, from even experiences that we have. If we walk in the streets and we see a placard or some marketing, some advertisement, and we see something that is completely new or different from how we normally understand the world, this is a signal of change, something that indicates that there is a transformation, there is a shift in culture, a shift in what we understand is normal, and that's valuable and it's useful to collect. So we have here some descriptions if you would like to have a look at this now during the workshop or later on, like a rough definition of signals of change. These are vivid, surprising, and specific observations about how the world is changing today. And this is a concrete example of how the world could be one day different. So it is important for futurists, for professional futurists and designers who are working in futures design, to see, to collect these different signals and then combine them with drivers of change and create then, alternative futures of how things could happen. So here I have another video of Jay McGonigal. She's a director at the Institute for the Future, and she provides more elaborated description of signals of change. I would also like to play it so that you also get an overview, some insights around this.
Welcome back. This week, you're going to learn how to work with the basic building block of all futures thinking, the signal. Signals are to futurists what words are to writers, or paint is to painters, or food is to chefs, or computer code is to programmers. Signals are the basic medium that futurists work in. Signals are what we build new things out of. And personally, I like to think of signals as a kind of tool for helping us see in the dark. Let me show you what I mean. The late, great British author Virginia Woolf once wrote, "The future is dark, which is the best thing the future can be, I think." She didn't mean dark as in depressing or full of terrible things. She meant dark as in unseeable, unknowable. And I agree. A dark, unseeable future is a wonderful gift, because if we can't see exactly what the future will be, then we can still change it, shape it, make it whatever we can imagine. But if we want to shape the future, we got to be able to grab onto something, right? We can't just be blindly waving our hands in the dark. And for futurists, the thing that we grab onto, that thing that we try to shape and mold, almost like a kind of modeling clay, that is a signal. So let me give you an example of a signal, and then we'll look at some definitions. I was at a local park the other day, and I saw this sign, "No Drone Zone." It was the first time I'd ever seen a sign like this. It caught my attention. It made me say, that's new, that's kind of weird, and it made me wonder, what's behind the sign? What's behind this rule? So I started to think about it. Is this a noise issue, or maybe something about wanting to go to a park and look up and see blue skies? And I started to imagine what the future might be like if the skies were full of drones, constantly buzzing in the background and obscuring our view of the clouds. Then I wondered, well, maybe it's a safety issue. There have been recent instances of attacks using drones. For example, the Venezuelan president was attacked during a public speech at a military parade by a drone. Then I started to wonder, well, how are they going to enforce this rule? Because drones are long distance objects, and recently, when there was an airport in London that was closed because there was reporting of drones being sighted that might interfere with the aircraft, nobody could figure out who was flying the drones or where they'd come from. So how exactly are we going to enforce a rule like this and ticket them or penalize them? I also started to wonder, what about police use of drones? Because that's increasingly popular. I'm starting to see a lot of news stories about police putting cameras on drones and flying them to reported crime scenes to take pictures before police can actually get there. And will a no drone zone be open to police drones, but not everybody else? And what all of these ideas and questions started to form into is the realization that we are entering into a really messy and unknown period, a world where there are lots of drones, and we're still figuring out what we want that world to look like. We're still figuring out privacy concerns, we're figuring out safety concerns, quality of life and mental health concerns, and that's what made this sign a signal to me about the future. It made me stop and become aware of a change that's underway, and it helped me think through what the realities of that change might be. Now that you have an example of a signal, let's talk definitions. The first definition of a signal comes from our executive director here at the Institute, Marina Gorbis. She says a signal is a specific example of the future in the present. And this points to a really important aspect of signals. They are real and concrete. They already exist. You can go look at them, you can experience them, you can talk to them. These are things that are already happening. They exist now, they are real. The second definition that we use a lot to talk about signals comes from the science fiction writer William Gibson. And he famously said, "The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed." This points to another important aspect of signals. They're interesting because they point to a future where they might become more distributed. They might be more commonplace and widespread. And what makes signals interesting is they're just like the tip of the iceberg. As we start to imagine how the future might unfold and what the world might be like, signals are like a little tip of people experimenting with new things, and they can help us imagine what would the world be like if they were evenly distributed. And the last definition comes from me. I like to say that a signal is a clue that things might soon become different. And different how? That's the really fun and fascinating part of signals. They make us stop and say, huh, or aha, because they're showing us some kind of a change, some kind of a shift, some kind of a disruption. And that's my favorite aspect of signals to play with, to try to figure out what is that nature of change, what's the direction of change, what's the cause for change. And by looking at that direction of change, we get a much clearer picture of where we're all going. Now, signals are often a new technology or a new scientific breakthrough, but they don't have to be. Signals can also be a new business model. It could be a government project. It could be a change in demographics. It could even just be some weird behavior that people are doing that we've never seen them do before. Oftentimes, signals are new laws or policies or regulations, and we're going to, in the next video, look at all of these different types of signals, and then we're going to talk about the really fun part, which is what do you do with a signal once you catch one?
All right, perfect. So we are not watching the next video as she indicated, but what we will do is we will actually collect signals. But I assume that by now you have a better understanding of what a signal is. And here down below, I compiled a list of examples of what a signal can be. So as we watched in the video, it can be a new social movement, it could be a new kind of job, a new learning solution, a new law, regulation, or policy, some kind of migrant experience or innovation, a new consumer solution or new technology, etc. So you can refer to this section of the board whenever you want to refresh your mind of what a signal could be. Down below, there is a section around drivers of change, and it is important to distinguish between the two because drivers of change are trends, are global trends that are impacting society across different areas. For example, we have COVID-19 that is a systematic impact in society. And then we have the rise of disinformation and propaganda, deep fakes, for example. Or we have 5G technology infrastructure. We have climate change impact in society. We have distrust in institutions and so on. So as you can see, these are like trends or tendencies to which society is transforming, and they are of global nature. Signals of change are specific examples in how the society is actually being transformed, and that's the difference between the two. So here we have some suggested sources where you can find signals. I try to compile sources that are of relevance for the banking, the financial sector, insurance, and but feel free to look for other areas. I would like to start with Google News. I think it's quite general and enables us to find relevant information for this kind of things. But if you're curious about other sources, feel free to click here or find your own. You're free to do that, of course. So now let's go directly into the activity so that we can have enough time for finding signals and then discussing them. Here I compiled an example. Let me just try to... okay, it doesn't seem to work very well for me, this. Okay. So this is an example of a signal of change. We have a set of criteria for understanding when we look at the news, as we're going to do today, if the signal is actually a signal. First, is it a specific example of a transformation or a change? Is it concrete? Is it a new product or behavior, event, data point or prototype, etc.? Since we are already interacting with services and products, as we indicated before, it could be relatively easy for us to understand, okay, this is a different way of payment, this is a different business model, for example, or this is a different way in which I am accustomed to this kind of products. Then is the signal compelling and vivid? Does it give you a quick sense of awe or fear or constructive confusion? Is it the kind of a story you would tell a colleague or family member that you would say, okay, this is actually different, this is interesting, and would kind of move you to tell to others? And finally, is the signal current? Normally, in the practice, it is suggested to take signals that are not older than 18 months. And the reason is that once they're older, they do not, they transform as part of the drivers of change in itself. It's already mainstream, and it's not longer that innovative. So having that in mind, the signal I gathered here is that crypto mining is considered for regulation to stop environmental pollution. And the date of the signal was September 8th, 2022. So what was this about? Due to energy intensity of crypto mining, efforts to combat climate change in the USA could be counteracted. For this reason, the US Office of Science and Technology Policy, OSTP, recommended the Biden government to set measures or public policies to stop crypto mining, pollution, and avoid environmental justice issues, especially among underserved communities. So what I found here interesting is that crypto mining has already been considered as a technology that needs to be measured or needs to be limited due to environmental impact. Normally, technology feasibility assessment is done as a post-event. So once there is an accident or once there is something that happens that is wrong. But in this case, it seems, I know that crypto is already in development. There is already a lot of people who are using coins and dealing in the blockchain, but considering already that a government organization, institution is suggesting limiting crypto mining because of its environmental or the kind of injustice it could cause in society, for me that was kind of different. So what is the interpretation of this signal? You start questioning what's changing, what are we moving from, and what are we moving toward? What are the implications of these changes? And what does the signal suggest about how the future could be different? And what I think about this is that in the future, cryptocurrencies may require an environmental justice or sustainability approval to be able to be used legally in the market. And also governmental research organizations may act as intermediaries in the technological, including environmental feasibility assessment of crypto mining regulation process. So we have the two elements here. On one hand, we have the environmental justice aspect that may be required in the future. On the other hand, we have already institutions that may serve as mediators to make sure that this is correctly assessed. So the idea is that you then place the link where you found this news and then some tags on, to easily find this signal later on. So before we go into the activity, I wanted to give you this hint. Normally, I start writing what is the future of X. In this case, future of banking. You can write future of the financial services, future of insurance, for example, or you can write future of banking of the entire industry. Or you can also search for innovations in X. You can also, after you have that, you may refine your search and write impact of Y on X or X in Y, as you may like. But the idea is that you go deeper and try to find a piece of information that can give you an evidence that something is changing in this industry. So we're going to dedicate now 15 minutes to search for signals of change, and then we will spend 10 minutes discussing them within the group. Is there any question before we start? Okay, it doesn't seem to be the case. So what you will do is that you will pick one of these cards. We will then elaborate a catalog of signals, and then you write your name so that you know where you're working, and the rest of the team as well. And you then search for signals as indicated here. Go to Google News or any of the sources listed here and search for the future of this industry. As you can search as an umbrella, or you can search for individual ones. And once you find the news that you think is really important, that you think is a signal that is changing, that is evident that of a transformation that is happening, you can then write a title that is a summary of the news. Then you briefly describe what is the change, then what is the impact, and place the source and the tags, and then we will discuss in the group. So if this is clear, so I will start now with this 15 minutes, and then we can go for it. Perfect. So let's start. Feel free to ask any question in the meantime if you have any, or type the question in the chat.
It looks like you've locked the cards. So what we'll do is put content on top of them, correct?
Exactly, yes. So you can select here the text section and then just, add it on top of it.
Perfect.
So we have 3 more minutes left. All right, time's up. Are you guys okay, or do you need some more time?
No, it's okay.
I'm okay.
Okay, perfect, great. So I hope the exercise was interesting for you. It's actually the core of the workshop. Now, what we will do is essentially go through your signal so you can briefly explain what it is and why you found it interesting or why it called your attention. So let's start with Max.
Sure. Yeah, this is something that I follow. One of the spaces that I follow in particularly looking at business model innovation and signals and trends in particularly in the space of cooperative member or user owned business models. And as cryptocurrency, blockchain, decentralized finance, smart contracts, DAOs have kind of popped up over the last 5 years. One of the challenges to creating a cooperative business model is efficient collaboration and cooperation, and you're dealing with many more owners and investors and stakeholders in a business model. And so one of the possible changes to that is technological innovations that make financial transactions that much more automated and speeded and efficient. And so I looked for a number of examples. It was interesting trying to hit this checklist and making sure it was compelling and vivid. And so I looked, I hit some white papers and I've tossed them down below. And so I went back to something that was recently in the news that was far more vivid, which is that, this was actually in 2017, but shareholders were voting on whether or not to turn Twitter into a user-owned co-op. Mm-hmm. But there was a little less vivid. I didn't find a vivid article, but as Elon Musk purchased Twitter, it was brought back into the limelight in last fall. So and so I can see that there is a potential trend there that tech investors and users might be considering cooperative business models more increasingly as they see tech companies run away.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Because of limited time, I will have to move on to the next one. But thanks a lot for this. This is like the first attempt, if this is your first time doing signals gathering. So with time, of course, you refine the skill. What I personally missed was the part of connection with the industry. Like, how do you see this trend of turning this Twitter business into a user-owned co-op in relationship to the banking, financial sector, and insurance?
Oh.
Yeah, but it's okay. I think it's just an interesting one. Maybe we can later on see the connection. Okay, Soledad, if you would like to explain yours.
Yes, I have my I have not connection with finance. I think with this text. Well, and I select this one with it's about VR and how help in educational efforts, and I see that this is very interesting. VR is used by the childs when children when they play, and I think that this technology, it will be useful for learning experience, and well, this article, it is very interesting. I think that this is a tendency, a trend, and also it's a signal to change some behaviors that my English is not so good.
No worries.
I don't know if you understand what I
Yes.
want to. Well, I think that this case with using VR for putting in the shoes of another, it is very, very interesting. And using this for education also, it will be useful.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot. And again, you can have a look at this board after the workshop and continue to search for signals if you're interested, to dig deeper into the banking, financial services, and insurance. Okay, good. So, Philip, now it's your turn.
Okay. Yeah, I was recently looking into how the environmental effect of construction influences borrowing rates, given. And so the takeout is that future safe houses will be financed much better, and the less pollutive construction process could also impact the borrowing rate immediately, because the safety on the long run is better. And what it requires is, to say it in short, what is green. So there needs to be some standards, and I just quickly ran through it. I got this stuff more in German, so I quickly looked up something in English, which came up on this Lex website, and yeah, so it's basically bringing UN's things into local small builds.
Very interesting. Thank you very much for sharing this. Nice. So I will briefly present mine. It's about insurances linking premiums to the smartwatch activity of people. So health and life insurance premiums are directly linked to wearable devices that generate relevant medical data about the person. So doctors could become the next life insurance advisors, as they advertise. It is an Apple product, and certain groups in society may not have the privilege to buy a wearable device. So will they be unprivileged? And how different may their premiums be versus those who have this technology? Then people who sign up for this business model may become healthier if they exercise regularly and may pay less premiums. Those who cannot afford this may be underserved. So this may create more division in society, and essentially because of the potential of being able to afford this technology. So this is another signal of change of how insurances are transforming and using new technology. And yeah, so time's up. So this is an overview, of how signals of change works, how you can dive into this topic, what criteria you may use when you are searching for information, what sources. It is recommended that you go to pages that are specific on the topic that you are investigating, in this case, the BFSI. And also that you go into social media, that you go into news sections, that you also go and experience products and services yourself and see what may be different today that may impact the future. So that was it. Now I would like to do a brief retrospective and then get your input, your insights on how you find this brief workshop. There will be more to come, of course. You can stay tuned. So for now, let's do this brief retrospective. Let's dedicate 3 minutes to this, and then we can exchange some thoughts around this. Okay, let's go for it. So we have our 3 minutes. So I would like to do now it very freely and brief. If any of you would like to share some words on how you found the workshop, feel free to do that.
Okay, I thought it was quite quick. I'm only grasping where this is going and where this is heading. But it was a good intro, and yeah, I got a straight follow-you appointment in a couple of minutes. So yeah, it's always a timekeeping.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, I fully agree with you. It's also an experiment for me, and to see, how much more time we may need. I may consider doing another workshop on signals of change, definitely because we may need some more signals in order to be able to complete the exercise. So yeah, I very much appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, because with 20 people, this would have been crazy. I think this would have never worked. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Thanks.
Yes, I think the same. But I like how you facilitate. It's very complete. I like it, and I learn about IFTF. I didn't know about it, so it was very interesting for me.
Very good. Happy that you liked it, and you can feel free to look into their website. They offer several training around this if you're interested.
Perfect. Yes. I will recommend this for my daughter.
Perfect.
He's studying design, so it will be interesting for her.
Very nice. Good. So I thank all of you for joining us today. It was very interesting. I appreciate your interest. If you would like to continue in the workshop series, feel free to sign up for the next events. As I said before, I may consider doing another one on signals of change and then focus primarily on collecting signals and then discussing them. So thank you once again. I wish you a very nice rest of the day, and let's connect. Let's remain in contact on LinkedIn, and see you next time.
Perfect.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.